I think it was a very solid budget in that there was very little fiddling with it. Fiddling with things like, say, I mean, as far as I could make out, there was no mention of any change in tax rates. I think that's a good thing. This was not the year, certainly, to see a reduction in tax rates. It was also not the year to cause a lot of uncertainty by increasing taxes. So I think broadly, I think that's welcome to see that kind of ongoing stability. There was also, I think, more implementation messaging on some of the government's flagship programs, starting, of course, with the Gati Shakti program, which has been announced in the past. I think there was much more detail on what was proposed this time. That infrastructure investment, especially the infrastructure investment in roads and railways, again, I think is very healthy and welcome. So I think I was happy to hear all of that mentioned in the budget. One thing that was also a continuation of what this government has been doing, which I do not agree with, is the tariff increases, where this year, I think what we heard was that CapEx, capital goods imports, would now carry tariffs where there were some concessional tariffs for project imports, etc. earlier on, that those exemptions would be progressively removed. I think that's unfortunate. I think we're better off as a country if we move in the direction of a zero tariff country, as opposed to, as was said, a moderate tariff country. A moderate tariff means, a tax on imports, as economists like to point out, is also a tax on exports. It's an equal tax. And in that sense, if we want to be a more engaged trading nation, I think we should see constant reductions in tariffs, as we saw until 2017. It's reversed since then. It needs another reversal. We didn't hear that reversal this time. If anything, we heard an expansion of those tariffs. To me, the big positive from the budget was its stability and solidness. I think it is an extension of past government policy, and that is a strong message of stability and continued consistency with past policy making. I think that's very welcome, as is the investment and enhancement of public investment in infrastructure. That is also, I think, very welcome. My one concern about the budget is it's also something that's being continued, is the tariffs on imports, which is now being extended to capital goods. I think that's a wrong direction we've been going in the last few years, and we need to see that reverse. And third, I think looking forward, there were indications of the longer term, but I think this was a budget that was somewhat more focused on the short term. And if one was to try and pull out, you have to kind of try and pull out the long-term message in the budget. The long-term message was one of continuity, investment in infrastructure, continue with programs of privatization, etc., of getting the state out of areas where it should not be, and leaving and trying to unleash private enterprise. I think that was the underlying message, but it was not a very clear, explicit message that we heard, I think, in this budget. Positive, good inward-looking budget, but an inward-looking budget. I think the one piece missing was the outward orientation towards exports and low tariffs and engagement and competitiveness with the rest of the world.